The Snow Child. Chapter 1. Wolverine River, Alaska, 1920. Mabel had known there would be silence. That was the point, after all. No infants cooing or wailing, no neighbor children playfully hollering down the lane, no pad of small feet on wooden stairs worn smooth by generations, or clackety-clack of toys along the kitchen floor. All those sounds of her failure and regret would be left behind, and in their place, there would be silence. She had imagined that in the Alaska wilderness, silence would be peaceful, like snow falling at night, air filled with promise, but no sound. But that was not what she found. Instead, when she swept the plank floor, the broom bristles screeched like some sharp-toothed shrew nibbling at her heart. When she washed the dishes, plates and bowls clattered as if they were breaking to pieces. The only sound not of her making was a sudden caw, caw from outside. Mabel wrung dishwater from a rag and looked out the kitchen window in time to see a raven flapping its way from one leafless birch tree to another. No children chasing each other through autumn leaves, calling each other's names. Not even a solitary child on a swing. There had been the one, a tiny thing, born still and silent. 10 years passed, but even now she found herself returning to the birth, to touch Jack's arm, stop him, reach out. She should have. She should have cupped the baby's head in the palm of her hand and snipped a few of its tiny hairs to keep in a locket at her throat. She should have looked into its small face and known if it was a boy or a girl, and then stood beside Jack as he buried it in the Pennsylvania winter ground. She should have marked its grave. She should have allowed herself that grief. It was a child after all, although it looked more like a fairy changeling. Pinched face, tiny jaw, ears that came to narrow points. That much she had seen and wept over, because she knew she could have loved it still. Mabel was too long at the window. The raven had since flown away above the tree tops. The sun had slipped behind a mountain, and the light had fallen flat. The branches were bare, the grass yellowed gray, not a single snowflake. It was as if everything fine and glittering had been ground from the world and swept away as dust. November was here, and it frightened her because she knew what it brought. Cold upon the valley like a coming death, glacial wind through the cracks between the cabin logs. But most of all, darkness. Darkness so complete even the pale-lit hours would be choked. She entered last winter blind, not knowing what to expect in this new, hard land. Now she knew. By December, the sun would rise just before noon and skirt the mountain tops for a few hours of twilight before sinking again. Mabel would move in and out of sleep as she sat in a chair beside the wood stove. She would not pick up any of her favorite books. The pages would be lifeless. She would not draw. What would there be to capture in her sketchbook? Dull skies, shadowy corners. It would become harder and harder to leave the warm bed each morning. She would stumble about in a walking sleep, scrape together meals, and drape wet laundry around the cabin. Jack would struggle